There's actually two versions of the Osprey for 2022. There is the 40 liter in black that I have here. I also have the 70 liter in gray. And this day pack here is actually part of the 70 liter. It comes with it. So the main point I want to be focused on today is actually the laptop compartment, which claims to be a 16-inch. This is a 16-inch laptop that I have right here. As you can see, it doesn't really fit very easily. It fits just barely. So you can see here that this is pressed all the way in, and it's a real struggle to get this closed. So they claim to have a 16-inch compartment, but it's actually really tight. That's a Lenovo. It's a 2019 Lenovo Legion 5 Pro. You can see that this is stuffed all the way in. In addition, the 40 liter is already a little bit narrow in terms of the width. You can see here that if you're doing groceries or whatever, there's really not much. Or if you put like a, what do you call it? If you want to put like a hammock under quilt, if you want to put a sleeping bag that weighs anything over 1,500 grams, you're going to max this out pretty quickly. The width is just not enough. In addition of this laptop compartment, that was added due to users complaining about the old version, which used to put the laptop up front, and people would complain about that causing balance issues. You know, which is a fair complaint, but I didn't have too much troubles. So Osprey went ahead and put this in the back with this little flap. Now this flap right here, when it's full, you can see takes up the already limited width. We're not talking about the width, I should call it depth, I guess. We're not talking about the width or the height. That's all standard, you know, 40 liter, standard Delta Airlines, not carry-on, but personal item, right? Personal item, because you get a personal item plus a carry-on. So this will be considered the personal item. So they made this specifically to fit the personal items for Delta and major airlines. But the problem is that this width is really just, it's so thin that you can't really backpacking or camping with it, because your under quilt's not even going to fit here, or your sleeping bag. You know, anything over 1,500 grams for a 3-season, especially a winter season sleeping bag, is just not going to fit in here. It's just too thin. Now, what makes that worse is the fact that this already limited depth on the 40 liter is now exacerbated by the fact that they add this pocket, which is actually not removable. So this pocket's actually sewn in. As you can see, it's full now, and it's taken up, you know, 50% of the already very limited depth. But even when it's empty, if we were to just take out this laptop, you see that it still does take up quite a bit of space. So I'm gonna have to take out. Here is the laptop, okay, and for size comparison, that's what that looks like. Now it's empty. You know, even when the thing's empty, it's pretty thick. You know, it's a big thing. It's sewn in there, so it takes up quite a bit of the already limited depth. Okay, so you just got this wasted space here, this big flap doing nothing. So I'd really recommend the 70 liter for that reason. Some people have said that the 70 liter is actually it's not a true 70 liter. It's a 55, but they call it the 70 liter because they include for free the day pack, which is 15. So they do the Osprey math. 55 plus 15, they call it a 70, but really the actual dimensions is more of like a 55 here, and the 15 day pack goes on the front there. It's detachable, but I'm going to call it 55 for that reason. That's why I really like the 55. If you're going grocery shopping, whatever, on your bike, you know, if you live in Europe like I do, it really just makes a lot more sense. If you're coming back on your bike or, you know, riding the bus back, you get a lot more space. There's a lot more depth, okay, in this thing, to put groceries, a cereal box or two, or oat milk or whatever. And if you're actually going camping with this 55 actually is actually big enough to put in your, you know, 1,500 gram 3 season or winter season synthetic camping bag, sleeping bag, in addition to your 1200 gram underquilt, your hammock, your straps, your windsock, or whatever it is that you're all putting in here. It all fit. Or if you're going grocery shopping, you got a bunch of boxes and a bunch of cartons of like oat milk. It all fit in here too. I'll give you guys an idea of how big it is. But yeah, so this thing right here is what actually holds the day pack in place. These 2 straps here. But you can see that the depth is just, it's night and day. It's much bigger here. You can definitely get. I still think that I would recommend to Osprey's research and development to actually make this 20% or maybe like 30% higher, actually deeper. And that way, if people do want to consumers want to individually decide to cinch it down to meet some size requirement, they always have the option with these, if they want to make some airline or some sort of transport requirement for depth to get into a certain overhead compartment, etc., or just for center of gravity reasons. If they want to pack that down, they can always pack it down not only with that, but also with these, right? But I would think it would always be nice to have the option, so they should actually make this even deeper. That way you can have the option, because this one right here is actually just barely fitting my the aforementioned camping gear. So underquilt plus sleeping bag, like a decent non-down. If you're vegan and you don't want to use down, and you want to use synthetic DuPont or whatever, these sleeping bags run at least, the winter ones run at least 1,500. If you want a good one, or if you're a woman, it's going to be 1,800, right, grams. So these things are very chunky, and putting it down lengthwise here, it'll barely fit, and it'll really max out the width here as well as the depth down there. So I would recommend they make it even deeper. But anyways, I'd say that the 55 is the way to go. I call it 55 because that's what it is, but it's advertised as 70. So if you're Amazoning this or Googling this, if you go on Amazon, this is a German one, and you type in Osprey 55, you're going to get no results. It confused the hell out of me for a while, because YouTube has a bunch of Osprey 55 reviews, but Amazon.de does not recognize that because they sell this as a 70. Without further ado, we're going to actually see how it fits in here. And this is my first time doing this, but I suspect that it's going to be a lot more compatible than with the 40. The day pack, which is specially designed to hold laptop, would probably be more suited to doing that than the half-ass job that the 40 does here. So I think, in my opinion, this 40 is actually a downgrade from the old versions, which didn't have the laptop flap. Okay. And also, I don't know about side loading. I feel like side loading is just like a fad. There's a lot of, reasons why side loading doesn't work very well. But okay, let's just see if this can take a 16 or not. I suspect it will. Okay, so we're just going to put that in. Actually, it's struggling pretty hard. Struggling pretty hard, actually. Surprisingly. No, I'm not going to say it didn't struggle, because I struggled to get that in there. But once it's in, right? It really just barely fits. So when they say 16, I mean, it's barely fitting 16. Pretty snug in there. I don't have much. It's really the width. The height's fine, the depth is okay. It's the width really that might be the cooling system on the Lenovo Legion 5. With this little extra thing, makes it more like a 17-inch more than the 16. So maybe that's the reason why. But you can see it's fitting in there. Let me zoom out a little bit. It's fitting in there. And it's easy to get out, unlike the side loading. Like I said, I think side loading is a fad. They really got to get rid of it. It's pretty secure. I like it. I like the way it sits in there. So when this goes on to the top, you're going to have the same problem that some people complain about being unstable. But the thing about the 55/70 PowerPoint is that this is also designed to be clipped out in the front in a turtle fashion. So there's actually two clips over here that clip onto the back of this thing right here. Okay, well that's gonna fall, that's fine. Back of this thing, you can see there's two right here actually. So I'll just point it out. It's right here. Exactly where my thumb is, right there. That right there and the mirror on the other side is going to clip into these two right here. And so that way you wear it as like, it's called a turtle shell or whatever design, where you wear this in the front. So the idea is that you have your sensitive electronic equipment in the front where you can protect it, safe from thieves and also from, you know, shock. And it also helps you distribute the weight so that this isn't, you know, all the way in the back, making you fall over. But you can do it either way, it's an option, so it's nice. I'd say that this way is much better. And then that way you have, you know, by default, you don't have like a very unsightly flap taking up this very precious depth real estate, you know. And I actually recommend Osprey in future iterations to make that depth even you know, wider, and then just have people have the option of cinching it down. But honestly, this is also okay. I mean, the depth here is barely enough. So, but if you're, you know, taking a bunch of Amazon boxes and you're riding on your bike and you're returning a bunch of Amazon boxes, those boxes can get pretty deep. So if you're, you know, stacking 2 or 3 of them in here, sometimes the depth is just barely enough, and you're not able to zip it, and you just have to keep it open on the top. So we just increase the versatility a little bit. If yeah, that's basically the 40 versus the 70. I recommend the 70. I also heard that this 55 section of the 70 is actually meeting most you know, airline requirements as carry-on. You know, not quite as personal item because it's too big. The thing about this is this will pass as a personal item, but most and that's always free. But most places will allow you to take this, you know, take not only a free personal, but also a free carry-on. And this actually fits as carry-on according to most people, so that's really nice. However, I'd advise you not to bring expensive baggage such as Osprey products onto airlines anyways, because if you know anything about Anthony William, medical medium, he talks about the undiscovered dangers of radiation, the huge amounts of radiation that airlines use or airports use in security is actually not good for, you know, it's not good to be around irradiated luggage. So he recommends actually that you throw it away every, you know, 3 round trips. So with that being said, I won't be taking this expensive stuff with me on planes. I'll only be doing this traveling by train, you know, on bus in Europe, throughout Europe, and not flying. So anyways, that's the whole thing, is just comparing the 40, the 70, and yeah, I think that the old 40 was better. I think this is a big downgrade. And I'm not a fan of the side pocket, and it doesn't even fit anyways. It's unsightly, and it takes up very valuable depth real estate. And I think that the 50, I mean the 70, they really hit it out of the park. It's a home run. Really like the design of the 70s. So the 70s going, I think, I don't remember how much it is, but I think it's, you know, it's like 200 or something. But yeah, I'd go with the 70. It's way more useful.
I used this backpack for 2 weeks in India and it works very well. It was a 40 liters backpack and I could put it on the cabin of the airplane.
The end of the conveyor.